The magician cuts half the pack and places it on the table. The spectator selects a card, the 6 of clubs. The spectator signs the playing card and returns it to the pack wherever they'd like. The cards are squared up and immediately handed to the spectator for a shuffle. The spectator places those cards in their pocket. They pick up the other half of the deck and deal cards until they decide to stop. They've stopped on the 8 of spades. This signifies the 8th position. They remove the other pack from their pocket and deal 8 cards onto the table to find their signed 6 of clubs.
What is good, everybody? It's Reed and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we have a fantastic trick. This is a trick that I'm really excited to teach. This is actually one trick that I will teach people when they ask me to teach them a trick, because that's something I get asked a lot. Oh, show me how to do a trick. And this is one that I'll teach because it literally involves no sleight of hand, no skill. It's basically a self-working trick. And it's really the only self-working trick that I will perform once in a while because it's really, really good. When I found this trick and found out that it was self-working, I was absolutely blown away. I saw this on Rich Ferguson's channel. I thought it was just a really cool idea. You know, I have changed it a little bit and added some ideas from my own because, you know, a lot of tricks, like I said, I like to have the audience shuffle, and those things, you know, will be way more sleight of hand intensive, but you can do this with basically no sleight of hand. And like I said, I teach this to people all the time because it's so good. Like, you know, they're probably expecting when I teach them a trick, just something really stupid, really easy. But this one, I'm like, no, if you can do this right, it's really good. This trick is best sold with the performance. It's all about how you talk, and that's what's most important. So as long as you can remember what to say, you'll kill this trick. So this is a any card at any number trick, which is kind of something that every magician's trying to nail. It's the any card at any number. So someone names any card, someone names any number, and then they find their card at that number. You know, this obviously isn't quite that fair where they name it and then they, you know, pick whatever number they want, but it's a fantastic variation of the any card, any number. No sleight of hand, and it's super easy, but super strong. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the self-working any card at any number trick. All right, so this is a fantastic trick, a really fun trick to perform, very easy. It uses a regular deck, and it's just a really great self-working trick. So the one thing with this trick, and the one problem I had, is that the deck can't really be shuffled, and that it does have to be stacked a little bit, okay? But it's a very easy stack to do, and it doesn't take long to set up. So I'd recommend you have this set up beforehand. If you have several decks, just have one deck with this stack already ready. Otherwise, try to stack it in an off moment because it's not that hard to do. Now, if you're just a random person who wants to learn a trick, well then just have the deck ready before you're gonna go show someone. So here's what the stack looks like. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take all the 6s and 7s from the deck. Now you can do this with the 7s and the 8s, or the 8s and the 9s, depending what you wanna do. But I like to do it with the 6s and the 7s. I think that's a pretty good number. So now you'll have 8 cards, all right? You can mix these up. They don't have to be in any order, and I think it's a little better if they're not in any order in particular, okay? So give those a little mix. What you're gonna wanna do is now alternate all of these cards with any random card, okay? So you're gonna alternate each one. All right, so now I've alternated each card, so it's random 6, random 7, random 6, random 7. So every second card is either a 6 or a 7. The important thing is that the first card, so when you flip it over, the card that will be on the top of the deck is a random card, okay? That's important. And then you just take the stack and throw it right on top of the deck, and now you're ready to go. So step 1, now that the deck is stacked, you're gonna, you know, go to your spectator. So one of the things I've added to this trick that wasn't in the original is a bit of a false shuffle. And I like to do a few false shuffles, a few false cuts, and maintain that stack on the top. The false shuffle I used was just a simple kind of overhand stock retention shuffle from Erdnase expert at the card table, but anyone you know, and then you can use maybe that 3-packet pulse cut that I've taught. Just something so that the cards appear to be shuffled, but the stack is actually maintained. Another little thing that I've added to this trick is having the spectator cut. In the one I saw, you would cut the pack yourself, and you can still do that, but I like to have the spectator cut. The one thing you have to make sure is you need to emphasize that they have to cut the pack roughly in half. So how I do that is I say, all right, you're gonna take half the deck, I'm gonna take half the deck. So just cut the deck as close to as half as you can, and then we'll proceed. So then they're gonna cut the pack, you know, as close to in half as they can because you told them to and you have a reason why, because you're each gonna take a pack. Okay, so they're gonna cut the pack wherever they like. So we have an apparently shuffled deck, the spectator's cut. So here's what we do. The spectator can hold on to the pack that they take from the top. So you can just tell them to take it once they cut it, or you just hand it to them. So what I'll usually do is I'll just have them cut and I'll say, you know what, you hold on to that pack. So you can tell them actually to just put it down near them. Okay, because you don't want them to be holding it because they can't shuffle it. This is the stack. Then you take the other pack and you say, all right, I'm gonna give these a bit of a mix. I'm just gonna have you make a bit of a selection. So now they come, they can choose any card they want. So in this case, we'll have them, of course, choose Jack of Hearts. So what you can do is you can have them sign it at this point. That's another thing that I added to this trick. I think it's good to have them sign this card. So as they're signing this card, you need to count 6 cards off the top of the deck. So really there's no method to this, just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's probably better to count 3 at a time, kind of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you just want to have 6, but don't, you know, make it obvious. Definitely don't let them see you counting, but just do it while they're signing the card, while they're distracted. I like to do it really the second they take their card from the deck. I just kind of do that. Now, I wouldn't recommend you hold a break and then cut and then have them put their card in the deck. I would recommend you just hold those 6 cards and kind of make it feel like this is where they took their card from, right? So essentially, we want them to take their card out and feel like they're putting it back exactly where they took it out from, because we don't want them to know that we're, you know, indicating where they put their card back. So just count the 6 cards and just kind of hold them like this. And then when they're ready, once they've signed it, you say, all right, just put your card back, you stick that hand out. They won't question it, they will drop their card on top, and now you place the rest on top. So you've placed 6 cards on top, their card is now the 7th. Now you say, okay, I need you to hold on to this pack, put it somewhere safe. I like to do the pocket, have them put it in their pocket, but for now we'll just say they have it over by them. Now here's where the explanation becomes very important, and the phrasing. You want to explain the trick, because you don't want to make this, like this is a multiple outs trick, and for those of you who don't know, multiple outs means this trick is going to end slightly differently and things are going to happen slightly differently each time we perform depending on what happens. And then we have different things to say depending on what happens to make the trick work. That's what multiple outs is. So this is a little bit multiple out, but we don't want to make it feel like that. We don't want them to just start dealing cards and then once we see the value of the card, then we tell them what happened. We want to tell them beforehand so they know what to expect, all right? That's going to make it seem more fair. So we're going to say, okay, I'm going to have you deal cards from this deck, and I want you to stop wherever you want. And wherever you stop will tell us the position of your card in this deck. So what you've done there is you're saying, wherever you want, you can stop. So now they know it's a free choice. But what they don't know is which card they'll be taking, whether they stop on the cards they've dealt to the table or the card in their hand. And then we say it'll tell the position of your card in this deck. They also don't know if it's saying their card is at the 7th position or their card is, you know, 6 cards from the top, or if their card is, you know, deal 7 and then it's their card. So we're not being that specific, but we're being specific enough that they know what's going to happen. So just say, take this pack. Now I want you to deal those cards onto the table face down, and wherever it feels right, you stop, and the number of the card you stop on will indicate the position of your card in that pack, which is pretty amazing, okay? So they're gonna start dealing. Now in your head, you need to start by saying no. So the first card they deal, you say no. Then you say yes, then you say no, then you say yes. This is just how I keep track of where we are, okay? Let's do that again. So the first one's a no because it's a random card, okay? So no, yes, no, yes. Now some people like to deal fast, so you gotta be ready to start counting right away. So just in your head, no, yes, no, yes, no. Let's say they stop there. They stopped on a no, so I know this is not the card I want them to do. So now I'll just say, are you sure that's where you want to stop? They say yes, perfect, no, they keep going, whatever. So they stopped here, this is the one I want to flip, so I gesture to say, all right, flip over the card you stopped at. So they will take it without question because you never told them which one,
if you instruct them properly, and now they'll flip it, and what do you know? We have a 6, right? So this way, it'll ensure we always get a 6 or a 7. So of course, if they dealt one more and this is a yes, then you just say, all right, flip over the card you stopped at, and now we have a 6. So it's the exact same. Wherever they stop, if it's on a yes, if it's on a no, you know exactly where to tell them to pick up that card, all right? So no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. All right, so just flip over that card right there. Now you say, and that's totally fair. You could have stopped at any card you want. You could have went one more and you would have got a jack. One less and you would have went a 4. This is probably the most powerful moment of this trick. Because the cards on either side of each 6 or 7 are random, you can take advantage of that and say, if you would have went one more, you would have had a 4. If you would have went one less, you would have had a jack. Right? And think about how strong this moment is. You're showing them that they literally could have picked any card they want. At this point, you can even say, look, you could have picked any one of these cards. Kind of risky because there's all these 6s and 7s, so I wouldn't really recommend doing that. The only time I've ever done that is if they say, oh, well, they're just all 7s, and I'll be like, look, no, they're just all totally random, and you can just show them. You know, it's definitely good to make that a point. I think the best way to do that is to just flip. Say if you would have went one more, it would have been a 2. If you would have went one less, it would have been a 4. That moment is so strong right there, okay? So then you say, all right, count 7 cards in that pack. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 7. And it is, of course, their card. We know we just put it at the 7th position. Now what happens if we get a 6, 6, 6, 6, 6? So now what happens if they stop on a 6? Well, perfect. Instead of saying, all right, deal to the 7th card, you just say, all right, deal 6 cards on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you gesture here and you say, all right, and now flip that card. They flip it and it is their card. So as you can see, you control the narrative. And that's what makes this trick so great. So just practice those pattern lines and practice the different options and you'll have a really great trick on your hands. You know, one thing I forgot to mention is you can, at the beginning of the trick, if you don't do the false shuffles, and even if you do, you want to show that they're all different, right? And because of the way we have the stack with the 6 and the 7s, no one's gonna notice. It totally looks like a well-shuffled deck. So make sure you show that at the beginning and at the end too, right? They've just gotten their sign card and you say, look, and literally all these cards are different. You could have picked any card, you could have stopped at any number, and that'll just make this trick really strong. So in terms of uses and other ideas, I've talked about a lot of my ideas for this trick. So, you know, doing false shuffles at the beginning, I think is a really strong moment. Having the spectator cut the deck is just one more thing that they can get involved doing, which I always think is good if you can do it. If you cut the deck, it might make it feel like it matters where you cut, but it doesn't. Now, some of you are probably asking, well, I have half the deck. What if it's the person who deals all the way past my stack and then flips it? Well, obviously, if they do that, I'm sorry, and the trick has not worked. There are some ways to prevent that. So think about it. We have 8 cards plus 9 cards that are random, 1 on each end, and then all the ones in the middle. So that makes 17 cards. So as long as they stop somewhere in those 17 cards, you will be fine. And 17 is a long time. Think about how many cards that is to deal, right? Most people are gonna stop, you know, near the top or maybe the middle of the pack you give them. So if you really want to make sure, well, you can just cut this top pack small. You know, do it yourself and just cut this top pack small. That way there's pretty much only 17 cards in the pack and you'll be fine, right? Wherever they end up, you'll be good. So that's the one way to kind of get around that if you're worried, but I really wouldn't worry about that. The last little subtlety that I have added to this is the moment when they're picking their card and replacing it. I didn't like the moment where I choose where they put the card back, right? I don't like that moment because I want them to be able to choose where they put their card back. And I would like them to be able to shuffle this pack. Those are 2 things that you guys know that I really love, having them shuffle. So here's how I actually would usually perform this trick. This is obviously a lot more advanced, more sleight of hand. You don't need to do this, but this is just how I do it. It's just another idea. So Jack of Spades is their card. So you say, all right, well, I'll just call stop wherever you want. They do that, they put their card in the middle, and then I'm just gonna control it to the bottom, okay? So whatever control you like to use, control it to the bottom. That was a squeeze shift by Daniel Madison, or my handling on it, slightly different. We'll be teaching that someday. And then you're gonna cop that card off, right? So you just do a gambler's cop, and then you let them come, and now they give the pack a nice shuffle. So you give it to them,
they've totally lost the card now. And then you're gonna load it back to the bottom, but now we need to get it 7th again. So this is where the patter comes in. As you're putting their card back, you wanna say, all right, so I just wanna make this pack as random as possible. So I'll push your jack in, and I don't want you to know where it is, so that's why I pushed it into the deck. And now I don't want myself to know where it is. I want you to have a turn randomizing this deck. All right, so you give it up to them, they shuffle, and you say, perfect. Now you've had your turn randomizing the deck. I'm gonna randomize it a little more. So in that moment, you're shifting the jack from the bottom to the top. It's just a simple overhand shuffle, shift it all the way to the top. You just say, okay, so let me just randomize it a little bit more. Let me have a turn at it. And now we have the jack on top. And now you just need 6 more cards. So then you're gonna flip the cards face up, and you're gonna count off 6 from the bottom and throw them on the top. And then maybe give it one quick false cut and say, perfect. Now that's very random. And now we have their card at the 7th position. So how that all looks at speed, once you've replaced it back to the top, you just say, all right, perfect. So I just wanted to take, my turn randomizing this, and we should be nice and random. Do you agree? And now their card, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, the Jack of Spades. So that's my little addition to this, where you can shuffle and then make that pack seem a lot more random, and that'll just take the chance and mystery of this trick to the next level. All right, well that's it for this trick. This is a self-working any card, any number, really great trick. Please, go back and listen to the patter that I talked about. You don't have to copy what I say, but make sure your patter allows for those few important points, which are, tell them what's gonna happen before they start dealing the cards. That's really important, but make sure it's left open enough that you can still apply the multiple outs theory, right? Make sure you're not too specific and saying, oh, and the card that you stop at on the table will be the one, because that's not the case. It could be either. So you wanna leave it open-ended, but tell them what's gonna happen, because that'll make it seem more impossible and not like you're doing a multiple outs trick. So just keep that patter, especially if you're doing the shuffle thing, you need a reason for why you're gonna shuffle the deck after they give it back to you, because in an ideal world you wouldn't. You just, take the deck back and you go on from there. So you wanna say, okay, I'm gonna give you a turn to randomize it, and then you say, okay, and now I'll just take a turn, make it even more random, so that neither of us have any knowledge of the order of this deck, okay? So that's kind of the patter I use. But yeah, practice this trick. It's not a hard trick. Like I said, you can kind of go through the cards and do this right in front of them, set up the stack. You just gotta make sure you have something to talk about to distract them from the fact that you're stacking the deck. And then it's even better when you can mix in a nice false shuffle in there as well. So with all that said, drop a comment, let me know if you perform this trick, like the video, subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.